going to show you how to make a fairy house door. I didn't actually make this one. One of my little students made it, and I'm going to show you how I would make one. I'm going to first take some clay and flatten it out in my hands, kind of patty cake it out a little bit, and then roll it into this horseshoe shape that you see here. So I'll use a rolling pin to flatten it. When you're flattening out clay, it's really good practice to start rolling from the center, roll away, lift at the edge, roll back, lift at the edge. Because if you just vigorously go back and forth, pretty soon the clay will be wrapped around your rolling pin and you'll end up pinching and tearing the edges. So if you're very civilized about it, starting from the middle, rolling out and lifting at each edge, then it should stay on the board and not get wrapped around and tangled around your rolling pin. And the same should be true for cookie dough, I believe. All right, so I'm going to cut out a horseshoe shape for the door itself. If you're nervous about doing that right away, go ahead, fold a piece of paper and draw half of a horseshoe or a U shape, and then cut it out and then trace it. And that should give you a nice horseshoe shape. Okay. I'm going to pat the edges down. I'm all about patting sharp edges down. I don't like leaving anything sharp in case that it gets fired that way, and then we end up getting injured by handling it. So back a while ago, I made this little wheel. You can see all the uneven organic lines in it, and then there's some horizontal lines as well. Well, I made that so that I could use it to incorporate a wood grain in some of my projects. So you can see that this makes it look like the door is made out of wood. I am not trying to line up all those vertical lines like that, but you can see that imprint now, so it does look like the door is made out of wood. Now I'm going to take some of this clay here, and I'm going to create a door frame, and I do that by making a coil. I find it easiest to make a coil by squeezing clay in my hands like a really long Slim Jim sausage, I guess I would say, nice and long, because then you have less rolling to do. If you take a lump of clay, big and thick and chunky, and start rolling, you're going to end up with it bumping and flattening and just coming out so uneven, and it's not as easy an experience. So if you squeeze it really long and thin first, the coil making is a lot faster and simpler. It goes much more smoothly. So this is going to be my door frame. And I'm going to cut off the extra. And if you like, you could use the wire brush to texturize it, or it could be more of a polished door frame. Either way works. We're going to scratch and wet. Every time you attach pieces of clay, you want to scratch and wet. Wire brush, dipping into watered down clay to do the wetting part. It's called scoring and slipping, but it really means scratch and wet. Scratch and wet the whole exterior of the door itself, and then scratch and wet the interior of the frame. If it's not gooey, it's not as likely to stick. There we go. And I'll put that on there and press so gently together. And then there's a little glue sticking out from where I scored and slipped it. I don't really like that left there. So I'm going to take an old paintbrush that doesn't have any paint in it, and I'm just going to smooth that. There we go. And that will erase that mark. Okay, so now every door has hinges. So I'm going to flatten out a triangle of clay. Now you could do that. See, if you see the shape that creates with my fingertips, It's a nice little triangle. So I'm going to put clay in there, flatten it, and make that little triangle. And do that again. And I'm going to give my door some really fat triangle door hinges. Like that. Scratch and wet them on. And then every door hinge would have screws or bolts in them. So I'm going to make super tiny bolt heads, just a tiny, tiny bit. And because it is so tiny, I'll use the needle tool to scratch and wet that on, poke it to hold it for me because my fingers can't do that very well. And then another one. Make them all. There we go. I've got all of them made here. So now I will scratch and wet them on just tiny little beads of clay. And just adding that tiny detail that it's such a simple thing, but easily noticed, and it just adds that much more complexity to the project, adding more quality to the project. Okay, so our door has hinges. Now a doorknob, on a door like this, I feel like it should have a big lever kind of a door, not just a simple doorknob. I feel like it could have, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a little coil and cut that in half and scratch and wet those two little handle ends on, just to make the handle of the door pop out from the surface a little bit more. Give it more presence. Okay, and then we could always cut out a window. I'm just going to do half a circle. How about that? I'm using the needle tool to cut that out. Now, if you are going to use this to, let's say you're going to put it up against a tree to represent that fairies live in that tree, you would be giving away your little secret by leaving this empty, right? So I like the idea of cutting out a window, but then creating a curtain behind the window. And if we make some clay super, super thin like fabric, and then we can like poke it and texturize it, almost like it's a lacy curtain hanging there, that will hide and cover up the tree that it's going to be placed in front of, keeping that little fantasy alive. So I'm going to scratch and wet the back here, scratch and wet the exterior of the curtain, place it on there, and now when you put this out in front of your tree outside, it looks like the window is filled in, or at least covered with a curtain. And you can keep shaping different things. People can decorate a fairy house door with stones and flowers and a mailbox. It's endless, really, the different things you can use. Like this child chose to put a home sweet home sign. Some kids like to use a door knocker. I'm just going to create a few little stones that are going to be placed around the bottom of my door frame. Scratching and wetting very quickly here. Sometimes it's fun to put a butterfly on the door handle or a kitty sitting out in front. You could even add a little welcome mat. I'm going to make the door knocker though, because I think that's really cute and makes it even more fun and interactive. So I'm just making a little coil of clay, and I'll turn this into a little circle, and I'll scratch and wet that on right below the window. Okay, and have it stick out a little bit, and the little holder for the door knocker. There. So it looks like a visiting fairy could come knocking to her friend fairy's door. Like I said, there's a lot of other things that you could add to it, but this would at least get you started. Thank you for watching.